have is about our ABOT beneficiaries. ABOT stands for one of the organizations that they have that they had really problems like family problems, mental health problems. Okay. Anyway, I don't know where I put the pictures of ABOT, but anyway, the ABOT participants are there.
Can I just get you to stop first? Farahnaz, hi.
Hi, Claudette.
How are you? I'm just a bit confused because I thought we were starting in, well, now 10 minutes, 9 minutes.
Yeah, but I just start my presentation.
I'm just worried that other people are going to join in 10 minutes and they're going to have missed the things that you're talking about. And I wondered if it would be, if you feel that you want to keep talking, that's okay, but I'm just aware that we're going to run a panel and that maybe people will miss the things you've said and you'll feel like you end up repeating something in your actual talk.
Actually, I want your perspective in this case, and if you want to stop my speaking, so it's gonna be okay, and I can repeat my presentation again, no problem for me.
Okay, because I thought that we were just all hopping on early because we're in a very fortunate position. There was a gap between the previous talk and our talk. So I just wanted to check I hadn't missed anything in terms of we haven't actually started. Eugene, are we on track? Have I got a time difference thing?
Yeah,
I just came in 5 minutes. I thought I misplaced the time, but you are right. We are supposed to start.
I think we've yeah, it was actually on the thing. It's on at 5:30 Malaysia time.
Yes,
so I think we've accidentally. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we've actually. Sorry, yeah, I think we've actually accidentally started a bit early, and we have until 7 Malaysia time.
Yeah,
so sorry
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so I just thought it might be more useful just because we've got kind of a structure, and the structure I was hoping we would use was, I'd give a little brief overview about what Self-Help Plus is, because other people won't maybe have context on that. And then Omid was going to talk for a little bit, then Farahnaz, then Helen and Michaele. Hi, Helen, we haven't actually met. And Dafne, and then we'd have people could be using the chat line to ask questions in between. Does that still sound okay to everybody?
Yeah. Hang on, I'm just checking. Yeah, we're fine actually for time.
Yeah, there was a there was a gap, wasn't there? There was sort of a half hour gap.
I think we accidentally missed the gap, assumed that the next one was following directly on. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Oh my God, I'm sure I've got time. I was telling everybody that I get time differences wrong all the time. And so I was like, oh, dang, I've done it again, even with Malaysia. Who just thought?
Yeah.
Well, it's
how do you feel,
Farah,
are you okay to repeat at the right time?
Okay. I just wanted to continue my talking about the illiterate women that they are receiving the WMS. What do you think, Claudette?
I think that would be good, but why don't we wait until everyone can hear it, because I think there'll be quite a few people who'll actually join us for the session in 5 minutes, if that's okay with you.
It's okay. It's okay for me.
I would also request to restart because, well, the record button wasn't pressed. So whatever you said, I'm sorry, but whatever was said in the last 15 minutes wasn't recorded also.
That might be a good thing. Thank you. Otherwise, it was going to get a bit messed up.
No problem for me. So, and this time I'm going to speak slowly and also a little more clear. Okay.
And we couldn't see all your photos either, because I think the screen you were sharing might not have been the right screen.
It's okay. I will not share the screen.
No, the photos are good, but the screen, you just, I think you're sharing the file screen rather than the photo screen.
Yeah, what you could do now is just to clear up. So you all have 1.5 hours until 7 o'clock. So pretty much from now until 1.5 hours, you could take your time. It is somewhat free and easy It's 1.5 hours. But now, if you want, you could kind of play around with the share button before people come in.
Do you want to just try sharing your screen and we'll try and get it right?
Yeah. It's
just
gonna be good. Thank you.
Yeah, let's just
The
see
other
your
thing
photos
that
again.
if I can just check with the panel is because there's so many of us speaking and we do have time limits, can we kind of agree if I'm making hand gestures like this, that maybe that means you've got 5 minutes left? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then if it runs over the 5, I'm just going to do this.
Okay.
Stop speaking. Is everyone okay with those hand signals?
Yeah. Okay.
Farahnaz, you're okay with
this
those hand
morning.
signals?
Yes, with this.
I'm okay.
So this is 5 minutes and this is finished.
It's finished. Got it.
Okay, beautiful. I
Okay.
noticed I'm also going to play with some stuff because I noticed my lighting's pretty terrible. It's night here and this room's not set up for this stuff. So yeah, Farahnaz, if you want to practice sharing your screen, go ahead.
Yeah, let's just
Yeah.
check we can see your photos.
Okay.
If anyone else has got a share screen, they might want to practice that too, just to make sure that's
That one I
working.
can just see your files there, not your photos.
No, these are the photos, I think. Yeah.
We can't
Actually,
see
these are
them.
our online trainings photos that I have
Okay.
collected.
Farah, what you need to do is you need to open the file, and then when you click
Okay.
share, you get to choose multiple screens. Look for the screen that has your photos on it.
Yeah, actually, these are in like one file. I just collected all them in
Yeah, okay.
here, as you
So,
see.
click on
Like
them.
the
click on the folder.
online volunteers, Adina.
So Farahnaz Jan, just please let me explain to her. Farahnaz Jan سر عکس‌ها دبل کلیک و باز میشه. بزرگ میشه. حالا عکس‌ها رو بسیار خرد نشان میده. خب دبل کلیک کنی بزرگ میشه.
Like this. I think
We still can't see it big, so you need to click on it twice so we can see it big.
I just clicked it, the
Can
photos,
you see it
but
big?
I don't know why it's not.
Can you can see it big, or can you see it big on your screen?
No, I
Actually,
cannot.
it's big on my screen. Omid, can you see the photos?
Right.
So
So if
you
click on your
have to
screen-
stop.
Yeah, you have to click on the screen that is when you share the screen, you click on the one where you can see your photo big, not on the other screen.
Click share
Like-
screen.
You have to stop
Yeah.
sharing and then start the sharing again. Yeah. And now share again with the big picture. It's confusing. It took me a while.
There
Yeah,
you go.
that's it.
Hey.
We got it. That's much better. Now we can see. Yeah.
I feel a little bit stressed and I feel hooked, but it's okay. So
Yeah.
I tried to convince Farahnaz, I tried to convince my family that we shouldn't have a couch, but we should have cushions like that because it would be better for us, and no one agreed with me.
Yeah.
That makes it much easier and better for your hips going up and down, doesn't it? All right, can
Yeah.
I just have a turn sharing my screen too, because I'm going to be
Go for
doing
it.
that. So Farahnaz, if you can turn off sharing and then I'll
yeah,
sharing. That's all right. So
yeah,
let
I
me have
just did it.
I
Yeah,
just want to make sure, I want to make sure that mine is also working. Good, and then I'll just have that going from the beginning. So that's all okay.
Just check you can do it on full screen.
It'll do it just from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That all good?
Yeah. That's good.
Perfect. And I'll stop
All right.
share.
So, Eugene, are you going to do the recording? You're going to stop and start it again?
I've already started the recording, so don't worry.
But maybe, oh, you're going to edit afterwards. You're going to edit as I'm out talking about how to share screens.
Yep.
As fascinating as that was. All right. Well, it's actually, we've got ourselves to time now, right?
Yes, that's right. Okay, so maybe I think what might work best if I introduce just the topic and then you introduce everybody, Claudette.
Perfect.
Because I think would that be okay?
That would be perfect.
Okay, all right. So we'll start now then. So I want to introduce the next topic. It's called How is it possible to have low cost and high scale interventions for the most marginalised? Okay, so this is about the Self-Help Plus program, which is a very promising intervention which was developed for refugees, and it's been trialled in quite a number of places in the world. It's got good results on randomised control trials. So I'm going to introduce Claudette Foley, who was the previous chair of the Developing Nations Committee, to introduce the topic and to introduce the panel who's going to talk about it. So Claudette.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Wendy. And I just want to say you and Eugene are doing amazing jobs as co-chairs of the Developing Nations Committee. So I made a really good choice. I feel proud about that. Welcome, everybody. It's a real privilege here to present this amazing panel of really experts in this field, particularly around this use of the intervention of Self-Help Plus. What I wanted to really share with everyone today is the ways, I'm just going to get that screen going, is how we can actually use this intervention. And let's get that going. How we can actually use this intervention in places that you mightn't have ordinarily thought you could use something. So the World Health Organization approached Dr. Russ Harris, and they asked him to put together an intervention that could be used for people in any type of adversity. So any kind of humanitarian setting. They wanted it to be transdiagnostic, so not actually something to treat depression or anxiety, something like that. Something that was actually more around how to manage stress. It needed to be delivered in low resource settings where potentially there weren't that many specialists for mental health. It also needed to scale so that people could actually have that in by the thousands if needed. And then to be delivered anywhere, even possibly without electricity. You can hear that's a really big call, hey? And actually, Russ initially came up with the book, Doing What Matters in Times of Stress. It's a sort of an animation book, and some of the people today will talk about how they've actually implemented that book in some of their interventions. The main outcome was this 5 audio sessions that have been pre-recorded. They're ideally pre-recorded in community language and delivered by community. The recordings include all of the timings. So they'll say things like, you know, we're about to do this exercise, press pause. Then they'll say, start the recording again, and they'll run through all of the exercises. For this reason, we call it facilitator light. It doesn't actually require that someone has a lot of expertise either facilitating or in mental health. So there's no expectation that the facilitator will actually explain all of the concepts. Ideally, of course, they've had some training and they know about them, but that's actually not a necessity. So there's 5 sessions now. Currently they're 60 minutes long. They were initially 90 minutes long. Grounding, unhooking, acting on your values, being kind, and making room. You'll see that there's no actual sort of act language in that, and that's been done really on purpose. So as Wendy was saying, there's been quite a few random controlled trials and more done since this time actually. The first one done in South Sudan with refugees, the second with Syrian refugees, and the third one with a really interesting participation from people who are actually migrating through to Italy, Germany, Austria, Finland, and the UK. In all cases, there's been some pretty striking results, sort of halving the risk of developing a mental health disorder compared to a control. So for a low intensity intervention of 5 hours, it's a pretty astonishing result. So it's not to be an ultimate treatment plan by any stretch of the imagination, but as part of a stepped care program, it's likely to be really effective. We also looked at how we could make it more culturally resonant, and that was really where my role came in a little bit more, as well as doing the facilitator's manual. we really wanted to ensure that if this is something that was going to be translated for all around the world, how could we design it so that it was as culturally attuned as possible? So obviously we used cultural consultants in the feedback process, particularly through those pilot trials. We also ensured that it was in participant language wherever possible. So that's sort of landing now with Self-Help Plus being around 15 languages and the Doing What Matter book being around 30 languages now. And the World Health Organization is very open to anybody translating. In fact, Michaele did, and Helen did probably Helen mostly, I think, did the translation for the Brazilian Portuguese version. Ideally, the facilitator is the same part, is actually the part of the community and the culture. So that way we actually know that language embeds a lot of these kinds of concepts in ways that it's quite important when people are delivering them. Having said that, people do deliver it in languages that is not the participants, and we still get reasonable results. There are 15 worksheets that have elements of adaptation, either to environments. That can be a topographical thing. So like if in one place something's called a tuk-tuk, but another place it's called a bajaji, that there can be some translation in that particular way. But also looking at the gender or even at the age group, you can kind of modify the sheets with examples that actually suit those groups better. And so in the 5 sessions, as I said, we go through grounding, sort of, using that metaphor of you're in a storm and where is the best place that you can stand, and slow down, connect, refocus and engage. Unhooking that idea that you can get hooked by your thoughts. And, we know that culturally changing the word hook or translating the word hooking is also a challenge. So again, a reason to deliver this in language. Acting on your values. Again, values is a sort of a word that means something very specific in English. And I know that when people have done the translation, they've really had to work on that word. We call it being kind, is that next session. And that's sort of really about compassion. We don't really use that word compassion, but that's actually what that session is for. And making room, that's idea of acceptance. Again, not using that language, but using language that's more generically acceptable around the world. So how can it be used? Well, it's been used already in a really wide variety of ways. Sometimes it can actually be used in other ways, as the people who are listening may be psychologists who are not in those sorts of other settings. It can be used in waitlists for universities. It can be used in bibliotherapy. It can be used for disadvantaged groups. There's a web app version that can be really useful as well for people. So new and emerging therapists might be able to use it. There's also, we have heard of some people who are delivering it via podcasts. So, and today we're going to hear about how some people are using it really innovatively. So that's really exciting too. So as you're listening, I kind of invite you to use your imagination and be a little bit open to how you might be able to implement this in your community. Remember, this resource is free, completely free. So I've got here a slide if anyone wants to take a photo of it, and I'll obviously make it available to the conference organisers if people want it, where you can actually find the manual and the recordings. I actually heard from the WHO today that the Doing What Matters book has been downloaded 148,000 times in the last 6 months. So that's a pretty significant download. So that's just in the last 6 months. We don't actually know how many times it's been downloaded outside of that. So this is really something that's being widely used. There's also a Facebook group there if anyone wants to ask questions outside of today's session. There's a chat bot that actually can be implemented through organisations, mostly governmental organisations like NHS or wherever they are in your country. And there's a web app version, as I said, of Doing What Matters. And I actually use this web app version if people are on my wait list, or sometimes for in-between sessions, or to teens who might not want to engage in a particular way. This is a really good way to get the content of these things out. Now, some people might have some questions. I encourage you to put them in the chat. How we're going to run today's panel, because we are all in different places and we're in a limited time span, is that each person is going to introduce themselves and how they are using Self-Help Plus, how they've used it, and a story of how it's been successful. Each person will talk about that, and then if you've got any questions, please put it into chat, and then we're going to take the last 20 minutes or so, hopefully maybe we'll have a little bit longer, to actually go through those questions. We know a lot of people are interested in the practical logistics of this, and that we're really open to that, and also for people wanting to understand the cultural adaptation or some of those barriers that they might have experienced. So please keep all your questions in the chat, and we will get to them at the end. So now it's my great pleasure to begin to introduce the panel today. So I'll introduce everyone just very briefly and then specifically as we get there. So we have Omid, Skandari and Farahnaz Mohibi, who are working in Afghanistan. Michaele, Saban, and I'm going to get your last name wrong, Helen, I'm so sorry. Helen Carlos May, and Dafne Morroni. So Michaele and Helen are from Brazil, and Dafne is working in Cyprus. Each of them has implemented Self-Help Plus in really quite different ways, and so I think that's going to be really exciting for everyone to hear about the different ways and age groups and places that this can be implemented. So let me first introduce Omid, who's going to speak first. He works for an organisation called PASA. It's my understanding PASA's been working in Afghanistan since 1996. That's a long-established organisation, and they're seeking to ensure that there's good leadership inside Afghanistan and supporting youth in that leadership, focusing on youth leadership, economic empowerment and social protection. Obviously, Afghanistan has some challenges now as religion and politics have met in the ways they do at times in the world, and that forms its own set of restrictions and barriers for Omid and Farahnaz, and I'm really excited for them to be able to present and show you guys what they have been doing. So I'm going to stop my share now and allow Omid to talk. Omid, please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Claudette. I'm so thrilled today to be with you all. And as you said, we are in Afghanistan, and I have studied psychology here. And based on the problems that all of a sudden our country faced, and there was a need, the people, especially when the previous government, the Republic government, was collapsed, the people were in a condition of fear. They had anxiety, they had worries, they didn't know what's going to happen next. And that situation was so difficult for people. For us as an organization, which is PARSA, we decided to intervene in this hard situation and decided to have a program that can help people, and they could have some kind of relief because of the thoughts and the feelings that they had on that time. So we started first in our own organization, we started to conduct something we called support group. In the support group, we were implementing the trainings based on doing what matters in times of stress and how to be in the present moment. And when your mind is making lots of rumination, what to do, and when you're in the world of thoughts and feelings, what's going to happen, and how you can present yourself in the present moment and be focused on what's valuable for you individually in life, and how you can move toward the kind of valued life that you want to have, despite having all those thoughts and challenges, not to escape, not to avoid the thoughts, but move toward the kind of values that you want to have in your life. So we started the support groups first for our colleagues, and the impact was so great, and the people, our colleague, wanted that program for themselves to start be like a facilitator and facilitate the sessions of doing what matters in times of stress in their families. So then it's how it was developed and how it was implemented in society. Then based on the feedback that we got from them, we started another program which is called Homeschools. And Homeschool project, one of the main components was doing what matters in times of stress. People, especially women and girls, they were trained in doing what matters, and they started to have those trainings for their surroundings, the neighbors. They were coming inside the house, and they were being trained by a facilitator, and they were having discussions about different issues and about their thoughts and feelings, and then how to bring themselves in the present moment. So afterward, we see the impact and the growth of program like this, based on the feedbacks that we were getting from the people who are our beneficiaries. We have lots of stories. I have lots of stories. I just want to share a few of them with you, so short. We had a person who was working with police previously, and he had left the country before the Republic government fall, and he had come back. He was diagnosed by OCD by Dr. Noor. Dr. Noor is the one who is behind all of these trainings. I'm thankful to him. He presented the trainings for us, and then we presented to the society and to people, and we learned that from him. So he had the OCD, and when he came back, he was starting to have fear and anxiety, because previously he was a police and his friends was died, and the current government who are in power now, they killed that friend, and he was having lots of thoughts, lots of stories his mind was making. So after receiving the trainings for us, and the counseling sessions behind the trainings helped him a lot. Now he said, I know that I have those thoughts which are coming, but I can focus on what's as a choice for me, and they are my values. So he was very happy, and he was asking us, okay, can I have my mother and my sister to join such a program, because they're also very disturbed, they're having a hard time. So that was one of the stories that I just wanted to share with you. Thank you. Claudette, we don't have your voice.
You're muted, Claudette.
Gee, that doesn't happen very often, people, does it? I like hearing my own voice, unfortunately. Thank you so much, Omid. That was really lovely to hear about. And Farahnaz, I know that you have some other things to talk about the schools, but also the midwives and things like that, if you would feel free to talk about that for a little bit.
Okay, as Omid said about the program and also about the impact of the program for our girls and also women's, I just want to continue my speech that I talked about the midwives and also about the illiterate girls and women's. We started our program first of all with the staff. Actually, I received the training from Monijan and also Omijan and also all the women staff that they were working with Parsa. And after that, we saw how impactful this program is, and how we can use this program in our personal lives. So therefore, we started our support group. We started our support group first with the professional women that they
She's frozen. Just wait for her to come back for a second.
Yeah, I think last time when we were speaking to Farahnaz, she also had some issues with
internet issues
Wi-Fi in her house. Yeah.
If you can hear us, Farahnaz, maybe just try leaving and coming back in.
These are the challenges, are they not, when we're actually,
Yes.
this is usually me, because as I've said to everyone, Australia has the worst Wi-Fi anywhere in the world practically. So it's usually me who actually flakes out.
So she's back in a minute.
Yes, let's hope that she can be back in a minute. Omid, while we're waiting for Farahnaz to come back, one of the questions, could you say, you know, the school project, could you spell the name of that project, Humus?
It's called Huma School. Huma School was initiated when...
How do you spell that?
H-O-M-E school.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Homeschool. Right, okay.
So, yeah.
My voice.
Yes, thanks, Omid. I think Farahnaz is back, so we'll let her finish. I might
There
ask
was
you
an internet issue.
later.
Actually, there was an internet issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just go ahead.
So,
we can hear you now.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so we start with a small group of professional women, and we had like 16 participants on that group. After finishing that group, we saw the impact of the program for our professional women. And in this case, I want to share one of the story of that professional woman, and she was her name. I don't want to share her name, but anyway, she said that yesterday I went to my office and. The new government staff, they said that you're not allowed to go to office because you don't have any mahram with yourself. So I thought that there's no hope for my continuing to this life, but fortunately one of my friends called me and she said that there's a new program in organization by the name of Barsa, and they are gathering the women and they are talking about the psychology lessons. And she said that before joining the Parsa, before joining this training, I said this training will be kind of like gathering women, and this will not be so useful for me. But after joining the program, I noticed that how was unkind I was with myself, and and also she said that on that time I didn't give any value to myself, to my family, and only my all thoughts and feelings was about my job. But right now I can say that right now I love myself, and also I found a new pathway in my life, and that was because of the WMS lessons for them. In these lessons, they're not just learning about to be in present moment. They're not just learning about to be happy in this kind of situation, but they are finding new strength, and they are finding a new pathways in their lives. So that was the story. After that group of professional women, we start another group with another girls and women, and we had 20 participants. They were coming into the Parsa office, but after 3 weeks, the government announced just the women and girls, they are not allowed to go to the in training classes. So we banned everything in Parsa, and we start our online training. In case of our online training, we faced with so many challenges, because most of our students, most of our beneficiaries, they didn't have like phone, they didn't have like credit card. So we provide credit card, and also we provide some cell phone for them, and we start online training. As you know, all of you are facilitators in this group, and you have your groups like in person, but having a support group in online is a little bit challengeable for facilitator and also for the participants that they are participated in the class. But fortunately, again, we came out with some solutions like turning on your cameras, doing the mindfulness for us, and also even most of our participants, they just invited their father, their mother, and also their family to join the programs online. Unfortunately, that program was again was successful. So we start another group with our support group with different groups like Scout, like with midwives, with doctors, and even with illiterate women. The most challengeable parts for me was having training with the illiterate woman. Because, you know, in the case of facilitating doing WMS, you should write some of your feelings. You can draw your feelings. You can express your feelings. But in Afghanistan, unfortunately, we didn't learn to express our feelings from the childhood. You know, if I be truthful with you, in Afghanistan schools, they are not teaching us whenever you are angry, how can you act when you are angry, or how can you express your feeling when you are frustrated, or whenever you have a problem. So in case of that expressing the feelings and thoughts, we faced with a big challenge of not knowing ourselves. So that was our job to learn them, to teach them how to first of all accept yourself, accept your thoughts, accept your feelings, and how do not fight with them. Because if I tell you another story of illiterate woman, she said to me that whenever I get mad on something else, maybe I have an argument with my husband, I have a financial problem, I just suddenly start shouting on my children. And also the physical pain started in my body. I just feel headache. I feel just like my hands are feeling pain, and also my stomach just feel pain. I don't know what to do. Just I'm shouting on my children. But during this lesson, as she was illiterate, she learned to accept these kind of reactions that she's making during the madness. She accepted, and she said that right now I learned how to be myself and how to react based on my values. Because I love my children, I love my husband, I don't want to fight with them. Just I learned how to be myself and also how to react based on my values. And that, I think, that is another big achievement of DWMS on our people, on our Afghan people and also Afghan girls. The another group of our beneficiaries, as I told you at the first, I was a little bit hurry at first, but right now I can tell you like clear. We start our support group with the group of midwives and doctors. What was the aim of doing the support group with the midwives? I can also share another story of our midwife. This is my real story, and also I can share another stories too. Once my sister was really sick, and I was taking her to the hospital. And whenever I went to the hospital, I saw some of the midwives and also some nurses, they are not acting professionally. They were not kind with my sister, and they were just acting unprofessional with my sister. And I felt that pain on my sister's face, and my sister told me that, Farahnaz, please take me to home. I don't want to be in this hospital. On that time, I decided to myself that maybe one day we'll receive that we will teach these women and these doctors to act professionally, not just professionally, to be kind also with their patients, because their patient needs them a lot more than everything. So I came to Parsa, and during our trainings, I shared this story with Moni Jan, and she accepted that. And she said, you can have your support group with the midwives. Therefore, we started our support group with the Adana Center. This is a clinic that it's active in Kabul, and they're working with with people. We start our support group with 17 participants of that clinic, and after our training, they shared their stories, and also I noticed that they said, one of them said, Atika, she said to me that, teacher, you know, after this lesson, I noticed that how unkind I was with my patients, how unkind I was with my clients. And you know, she said that I feel a little bit shame, but it's okay, it's just feeling, but after that I will change my behavior with my client and I will be kind with them. You know why? Because she learned to act based on her value. Her job was a value for her, and she also valued to her patients right now, not just for the salary. After that group, we start again another support group with another 70 participants of midwives. In these groups of that we are leading, we are facilitating them. We have lots of beneficiaries, and also we have lots of participants, and every beneficiaries of this program, they are leading their home schools. As Omid said, the main aim of having homeschool is implementing the doing what matter in time of stress into society, because we want a big change in our society. We don't want our people to be mad. We don't want our people to act based on their anger, not their value. Therefore, we are teaching our facilitators, and then our facilitators teaching first their family, then their neighborhood, and then their society. So I think this is a big change in our country, and if you were interested, I can send more stories to Miss Claudette, and she can share that stories, and also that another pictures, and also everything that we have with another groups. So all we have in our department and in our organization is helping our Afghan people mentally, because right now I think all the Afghanistan needs this kind of program to be, and they need to be healthy mentally. The situation is in here is a little bit complicated, but again, we are trying to bring positive changes in our society by the help of doing what matter in time of stress program, and also another program that we have in our organization.
Farahnaz, would it be a good time to share those photos that you had?
Yes, I'm trying to share that photos.
And then we might finish up. Yeah, that's a beautiful photo. And that group, could you explain what that photo is of?
This is the group of illiterate women that they don't know how to write and how to read. So this is the group of illiterate women, and they are receiving the WMS program. As you see in this group, it was after mindfulness, and I just shared a picture of feeling with the face feeling with them, and I told them that recognize your feeling in this picture, and we just work based on the pictures and also with talking, and because they cannot read. And okay, this is the another picture. If you can see my screen, this is the during of our our online.
The picture's still the same, Farahnaz.
The same? Is it? I don't know what's the problem of my screen sharing. Omid, can you see the new pictures of?
It's okay.
What if you just use your arrow key?
No, I think it's about my internet connection problem.
Okay, well, that was really beautiful. You have so many beautiful stories, Farahnaz, and you're working with so many amazing groups, midwives, illiterate groups. I know you're also working with other scouts and so on and so forth. And towards the end of the panel, hopefully we'll have some questions about that. So thank you so much. It's really, when I first heard about your work, Omid and Farahnaz, from Norman, I was so excited about the innovation you've been able to bring into Afghanistan in the very complicated situation that you're in, and Farahnaz, for you even more so with the challenges of not being able to leave the house and so forth. So I thank you both for your courage in continuing to do the work in such challenging situations. So our next speakers are from Brazil. We have Michaele and Helen, if they would like to. So if I could just briefly introduce Michaele, I know more about than I do Helen. Michaele, if I'm right in saying you were the first person to actually translate an ACT book in Brazilian Portuguese, and that's actually how I think the word began to spread about ACT. I think so.
I wrote the book. I wrote
the book. You
Yeah.
did, and you didn't make it this thick either. It was like quite a thin book, so that was clever. So please, we'd love to hear from you guys.
Thank you so much. It's a big honor to be in this group, to listen to these stories. It's really touching. So I would like to thank Claudette for the invitation and the previous presentation. It is always something very emotional for me to hear. We are going to share a little bit of our work also. This is our project, ACT in Society. So I think we shared in some way a very similar dream. We are a voluntary initiative, so all that we are going to share with you, we did it with no money at all. We don't have any financial support, but we do have a lot of help from these two universities. They hosted the course we gave, and they allow us to do research, so we are very grateful. And a special thank you for you, Claudette. That was really, really kind and helped us in all the process. It was very important. And also has Harry's whole organization that provide the material for Ellen's translated. She translate the manual, the book, and the audio script in 1 month. She did it all in 1 month. And then we did adaptations and reviews. So she was like a very strong person. And we have others in our team also. I'm very happy to work with these people. Ellen, that translate all of this and is very active in the northeast of the country. Jonas Filho also in the south, and he did the edition of this material. Janie is our research support, doing wonderful things in research. And Renata Rosa is our connection with the university. And we have an intervention lab also, that is Lea Salles in Belém do Pará, Robson Santos in São Paulo, Leandro Madeira in Rio Grande do Sul. Just for you, I put a map for you to see, like we are all spread in Brazil. We are a big country, but we have this initiative that is basic intervention using Self-Help Plus in schools. And what we do is we train, we first deliver the intervention to the teacher and educational staff, and then we train them to be facilitator to groups in a high school level. And when the school doesn't have a high school with young children, we are planning now another phase of intervention with parents and the society, the community they are in. Here is Parnamirim in the northeast. Ellen is here. This is the teachers, the kids. We had to do a prompt intervention for them because they were really resistant to do a therapy. And we said, oh, it's not a therapy, it's something very different. It's a course, it's abilities. So we did like a big group intervention. It was really nice. Here is in Belém do Pará, in the north of the country. Here is Lea. These are people that are working in this community. They are basic education teachers. And this is the kids and the community. There's a lot of kids. They are very thin because of hungry. This is the most the population they work with. Here in São Sebastião with Robson, these are the teachers. I visit there here. We're doing the work, and here is in Ivotim, in the south of the country. I will show you, this slide is very important because I don't know in other places, but we were always told that we could not do something about the society. The society is this way. And we are 6 psychologists, and we managed to train 84 educational professionals, and 300 students benefit from it. And I put 2024, but it's going to happen this year. More 400 students will receive. And indirectly, like we trained the teachers and they are young children, it was 428 young children. And next year we are projecting about 500 parents to receive the treatment as well. So this is like a very important in our economic situation. Without this, psychology is very a privileged thing. Most of the country. So I would like to share a video. We have a website that is in Portuguese, English, and Spanish. So if you want to look the whole video, I will show just a part because of our time. And then Ellen will say some words also. These are free testimonials that people gave us, and we did like a nice video with it.
Esse é o projeto Arte na Sociedade, é intervir em grupos sociais relevantes de uma forma coletiva e ampla.
Arte na Sociedade, edição Educação, foi um projeto concebido a partir da necessidade de uma intervenção de forma quase multitudinária. Era uma força-tarefa que a gente precisava levantar frente à grande necessidade de professores e alunos de uma escola aqui no Rio Grande do Norte. Então, quando eu estava fazendo o curso com a professora mestre Michaele, a gente conversou sobre materiais e então eu já estava traduzindo o material da OMS. Os resultados que nós obtivemos até agora foram excelentes, animadores e faz com que a gente tenha força para enfrentar todas as adversidades.
No caso do que a gente fez em Panamirim, foi um curso, foi um treinamento de habilidades, que é verdadeiramente um treino de como desenvolver habilidades básicas e fundamentais para você desenvolver qualidade de vida, saúde emocional, cognitiva.
Foi muito bom, fui co-participador, participei no auxílio de várias turmas e teve uma mudança muito significativa na minha vida. Coisas que eu não conseguia me concentrar, agora eu consigo, estou dando mais valor às mínimas coisas, escutar, engolir, agir. mudou muito na minha vida. Almoçava nas carreiras, hoje eu consigo sentir o gosto das comidas, eu consigo ver o que está ao meu redor. E nos meus alunos eu vi a concentração deles mudar assim drasticamente. Sou intermediador de uma disciplina, às vezes muito complicada, para a adolescência principalmente, aquela agitação não para no dia a dia e eles estão conseguindo fazer isso. A turma de terceira série ajudou muito nos vestibulares que vinham pela frente. Foi muito bom e ainda está sendo muito bom na minha vida.
Foi no momento em que os nossos alunos estavam bastante depressivos, ansiosos, e não só ele, mas também nós professores. Esses 5 encontros foram 5 encontros onde nós aprendemos a colocar o pé no chão, a vivenciar a tempestade, a perceber que ela acontece, mas podemos escolher os lugares para passar essa tempestade.
Bom, no início eu confesso que foi bem complicado, eu achava, isso não vai funcionar. Mas quando eu passei a colocar em prática no meu dia a dia, eu vi a diferença que fez. Hoje eu posso dizer que eu sei lidar bem em situações estressantes, em tomar decisões, sei como diminuir crise de ansiedade. E isso pra mim foi, não tenho nem como falar, porque mudou minha vida completamente. Espero que possa mudar a vida de muita gente também.
Quando eu comecei a fazer o curso, eu já passava por problemas de controle emocional em 5 anos. E eu fazia do meu jeito. Geralmente não funcionava. Quando eu comecei a receber o curso com o auxílio das professoras, as técnicas foram fazendo efeito, eu fui testando com os meus amigos e foi algo muito incrível. Mesmo às vezes eu pensava, será que isso vai dar certo? Será que isso vai funcionar? Mas eu tinha coragem e tentava, continuava tentando, até eu conseguir aprender a técnica. Teve uma vez que eu tive ansiedade e eu testei uma das técnicas e foi maravilhoso. Eu também ajudo muito os meus amigos e reproduzo as técnicas. Então, assim, de verdade, incrível. Eu amei o curso mesmo.
Sou professora da escola da Saban-Bernaur, onde desenvolvemos o projeto que foi de extrema importância para mim, tanto pessoal, acadêmica, né, onde eu pude rever algumas práticas pedagógicas, né, utilizadas, que a gente passou, principalmente pós-pandemia, trabalhar com os alunos, realmente a necessidade de trabalhar o agora, né, porque os alunos voltaram muito ansiosos e que estavam impactando também na questão da aprendizagem. Com os exercícios que a gente aprendeu em sala, conseguiu trabalhar com eles a questão do agora. Os exercícios para mim foram maravilhosos, que eu amei fazer, né?
We have more testimonial if you would like, you can see in our website. I just want to leave some space for Ellen that was more day-to-day there. Please.
Hi, everybody. It's an honor for me. Claudette, I'm sorry, my missing contact, but my English is terrible.
Well, you have too many other languages already in your head.
If I can speak in English, in Spanish is better for me, but I try speaking English. It's an honor, and it's amazing stories about self-help plus in many parts of the world. It's very, very emotional for me. So I will speak about this. I'm right because it's for me it's very difficult. So I said the psychologist's roles in a traumatized world cannot and should not be limited to clinics and hospitals. Society needs us to work alongside it and closer to the many realities that exist. Brazil, with its over 200 million people, it's marked by cultural diversity as well as social inequality. Because of this, I started my volunteer work to bring the elitist psychology close to the less fortunate. It is the belief among the educators that schools are the perfect environment to change society. The school I work at is a public school in the periphery where most students are lower class. It's an all-day school, and because of this, the school serves 3 meals. For some students, that's all they eating during the day. On the other hand, several problems arise, such as lack of time for self-care and, most of all, an excessive amount of time spent together. I returned to voluntary work at a time after the pandemic, when schools were coming back to in-person classes in April 2022. The scenario found frightening because I saw students, teachers, and faculty suffering, and I thought, I can't do this on my own. I need help. It was at the moment I received the Self-Help Plus protocol from the Stephen Hayes newsletter. There was not in Portuguese translated, so I began to translate it from Spanish. It's right. At the same time, I was taking a course with Michaele and asked for help. And with the generous, is amazing. So I asked for help, and I found the right person and incredible material to work with. But we need a task force. We joined force, and the problems began, of course. Without the help of the Regional Council of Psychology or the state of government of Rio Grande do Norte, with a polarized environment, we presented the new and experimental Self-Help Plus to students and teachers who were burned out from stress. My experience at the school was challenging, to say the least. To go from the convenience of the clinic to create a new space to care for the mental health of teachers and students brought a mix of very uncomfortable emotions: frustration, fear, sadness, anger. Many times I thought about quitting, and that none on this was worth it. But as Professor Hayes said, it is one of the great ironies of life that purpose and pain tend to go together. My value to serve and help others guided me in the worst moment. I was well trained with all skills of the incredible material that helped me immensely, both professionally and personally. The results and the data speak for themselves, and the testimonies of how the training led to a significant improvement in people's life show that no matter how small, what we do have a positive impact in society or in someone's life. I'm very happy and grateful to be here with Michaele and sharing this experience with you all. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, my English.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Michaele. Oh, it's such the videos are so touching too, to hear through people's voices, but also to see their faces saying, I really got this. I really got this. And Alan, I was even thinking, even in the translation process, I know many other translators have told us that just even the translation taught them so much. And so, and to do it all in a month, oh my gosh, I wonder if you got sleep. Oh my. Thank you so much. That's and I hope that you can continue to spread that. As I said, by community to community is how we scale this. This is the way that we should be doing it, not through people thinking they have to have a psychologist in the room all the time. Thank you so much. And Dafne, your turn.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much to all the previous presenters. Honestly, I feel a bit jealous that I forgot to put photos and videos and testimonies in my presentation, but it has been a really emotional talk. Let me just share my screen.
Daphne, while you're doing that, I forgot to introduce you more properly.
Oh, okay.
I was all carried away by everyone else's story. So Daphne is a PhD student in Cyprus, and she first tracked me down, at least when I was talking at a different conference, and asked me questions and said, hey, I'm thinking about delivering Self-Help Plus to unaccompanied minors in refugee camps. And I'm like, oh, children. We didn't really write it for children. And then she said, oh, and by the way, they'll all come from different countries. They'll all be different ages. I'm going to go across 5 camps. And I was going, how many of you are doing this? And she said, oh, just me. So from a place that I thought was impossible, I will let Daphne tell the story of how she managed to do this.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that's the end. Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'll be talking about mostly the struggles and the solutions that we found in working with unaccompanied minors. This is actually part of my PhD project. Here we go. So who are unaccompanied minors? They're children and adolescents under the age of 18 who have been forcibly displaced and separated from both parents, and so they're not being cared for by an adult who has the responsibility to do so. They're considered a highly vulnerable refugee subgroup because they have to cope with significant losses and many stressors during a very critical period of their physical and mental development, whilst experiencing a major transition by having to flee their home. And compared to accompanied refugee minors, because they're not with any parents or caregivers, they are at a higher risk of developing mental health difficulties. So what did we actually do? We ran a cluster randomized trial. So instead of randomizing each participant to treatment or waitlist control group, we randomized the shelter so that we would minimize cross-contamination between the intervention and the control group. We had 6 shelters in total, and these were separated by gender. Our total sample was 101 participants. Considering that we have about 900 minors in Cyprus, unfortunately, this was the access that we had, but it was still relatively good. We had 4 shelters in the treatment version with 54 participants and 2 shelters in the control condition with 47 participants. Some information about the minors. They were between 13 to 18 years old. In terms of education, almost half of them hadn't completed any schooling. 41.6% of them had stayed in their current shelter for 6 months to a year. So just imagine being a 15-year-self at 15 years old, being stuck in a shelter without your parents for that long. And some of them had actually been there for at least 2 years. We had minors from 9 different countries, mostly Somalia and Congo, but also 7 other countries as well, as you can see there. We didn't have any exclusion criteria apart from active psychosis and active substance abuse, just because we thought they wouldn't be able to take part in the intervention. But there wasn't any diagnosis required to participate in the study. And compared to other studies in the literature with unaccompanied minors, this was quite different. We also had some measures that we included in the trial. So they had to fill out some sociodemographic questionnaires, some questions about depression, anxiety, and stress, trauma, strengths and difficulties, quality of life, and psychological flexibility. The questionnaires were completed at 4 time points: pre-intervention, post-intervention, 1 month and 3 months follow-up. But the psychological flexibility measure was given after each session. So the ACT intervention was adapted from doing what matters in times of stress. We had it in a group modality, but instead of 5 sessions, we decided to do 4 sessions once a week. And we did have it for 60 to 90 minutes because we felt that adolescents might need some more time. And we had 3 to 12 participants in each group. With the adapted version, we did a small pilot study with teenagers in a school, and they actually changed a lot of the material, which was really important. We had translators in all groups apart from one, where it was impossible to get a translator to come to a different city. And the booklets were provided in English, French, Somali, and Arabic that were translated from the ACBS community where possible. So this was the intervention. As you can see, we changed the sessions around a little bit, and we put unhooking and values together. And basically, the changes that we made was just that we just used the booklets, we removed a lot of the repetition that was in there, and we added more experiential exercises to engage the adolescents. But if anybody wants to ask me any questions after this, feel free to. So to talk about the struggles, I tried to find the best framework possible to kind of explain this, and I found this consolidated framework for implementation research, which includes 5 different domains. So the treatment that was being implemented, the outer setting, the inner setting, which refers to where the intervention is implemented, all the individuals involved in a study, and the implementation process. So we had some difficulties with minors with low literacy. We did have minors that were neurodivergent or had psychosis in remission. We also ran the groups during Ramadan, so there were some difficulties there. And we expected to have language barriers with so many different languages. So in terms of the low literacy, we tried to use cartoon-like figures as much as possible and not many words. And for the questionnaires, where we had minors mostly from Syria who couldn't read, the interpreter would read out the questions and would help them fill them out, so they didn't actually have to read anything. We did actually include a minor who had symptoms of ADHD and remission and psychosis, because we felt that it would be unethical to exclude them from the trial as they would be benefiting. But we allowed them to take breaks, and we didn't push them where we felt that they weren't really in the mood to take part. In terms of Ramadan, we had to adapt any mindful drinking or mindful eating exercise to things without food when minors were fasting. And we also had to reschedule the group so that either it was after their prayer or they had time we would take a break so that they could pray, and then we could continue afterwards. And for the language barriers, we did have the booklets in many languages and the questionnaires in all the languages that minors spoke. The biggest issue for me with the study was the approval to start. Apart from ethical approval, we also needed approval from Social Services Department, which in our proposal was denied at first. So it took us about a year to get this approval. And what we did was that we just took the time to explain the importance of the study to governmental authorities, and we met with each shelter and the guardians in advance to say how our study could meet the needs of minors. We had a lot of practical issues at the shelters. We had to prepare the shelter in advance regarding schedule, requirements of the study. So for instance, there was one particular day where minors were provided with pocket money, and sometimes this particular shelter, as a consequence for bad behavior, might give a minor less pocket money. So there would either be violence, or minors would prefer to take their pocket money and go out instead of coming to the groups, and nobody had let us know. So for 2 or 3 weeks, we would go to the shelter and not find anybody there. So that was something that we really had to discuss in advance. We had some issues with social workers, even though we expected that they would be really motivated to help. That wasn't always the case, and that was mostly in very big shelters because they were really understaffed. So I found that the best solution was to spend time with the staff prior to the groups and after, so they get to know you, but also have frequent and direct communication with key individuals. So I found that as the time progressed, I realized that there was a few individuals that I could really count on. So I just took their number, I would call them, I would text them, just so that they could help me and to make the process a lot smoother. Motivating minors was difficult. They also had apprehension about the consent forms, and we also had some issues with interpreters. So with motivating the minors, we kind of normalized the experience of stress, and talking about stress rather than feelings was something that they found that was relevant to them. And also telling them that their participation would help minors all around the world. That seemed to really engage them. As well as saying that it was a student project, they seemed to really want to help me with this project rather than just some research that they had to take part in. And we use interpreters that were already collaborating with the shelters and already had a relationship with them, so that the interpreters would, encourage them to take part in the group. So that helped immensely. With regard to the consent form apprehension, we reassured them that it wouldn't be for their asylum application and it was just for research, but that was a big concern. With interpreters, unfortunately, we struggled in terms of kind of their punctuality. They didn't understand some of the concepts. It was quite abstract for them. And some of them came up with their own biases into what minors can and can't do because they had that already established relationship. So that was something that we had to manage. And finally, the implementation process. If I could do it again, I wouldn't give them so many questionnaires. I think it was 80 questions. And they did feel quite overwhelmed. And towards the follow-up periods, they just didn't want to take part in the questionnaires anymore. But using a lot of positive reinforcement helped a lot. I was known as the girl who takes chips and crisps to the shelters, but that seemed to work. And in terms of missing data, we actually managed to minimize a lot of that by putting all the questionnaires on Google Forms and asking the minors to scan a QR code that would take them directly to, with their mobile phones, that would take them directly to the questions. And they had to fill out every single question so that they could submit the form. So that helped a lot with those kinds of missing data. But we also had minors who didn't have mobile phones. And so myself and the research team would give up our own devices, which was sometimes tricky. But overall, these were the struggles that we encountered and the solutions that we suggest for future research. Thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to email me.
Thank you so much, Dafne. Could you just say a couple of words? You do have a couple of minutes, just about what your sense of success was. Because it was such a complicated project. You had so many barriers. We can hear just from all of the things that you had to do. Did you feel like the people who participated did actually get something out of it in the end?
Yeah. Even I was actually surprised because even though some of the minors did say that they enjoyed some of the exercises and they found it really helpful, I think the most shocking for me was that I had an interpreter who was very biased about, oh, the kids are not going to be able to sit still for like 90 minutes. Are you joking? 20 minutes and they'll be out of here. And then at the end, he asked me for a copy of the booklet so that he can give to his son. And I thought, okay, he loved it. So that just shows that you don't need to be a psychologist or a clinician to understand the concepts once they're explained to you, even just once. And also I love that one of the minors, she attended the last session. That's it, just the acceptance session. And when I went to the follow-up to do the qualitative interview, she said, I loved it. And whenever a new girl comes, I take her the booklet and I teach it to her. And I thought, okay, that was one session success. Like she's cured. She has no stress. So yeah, there was things like that was amazing. And even other meanings from the booklet that I didn't think would have, like one of the minors from Syria said to me that we learned from you never to give up. And I never really said that in so many words, but even though I split, the values, I didn't do a whole session on values. It was half a session. I think they really, doing that in the first session was like a reminder, like, why am I here by myself in this country? and I'm going through a lot and it's difficult, but I'm not going to give up. And I think that's where it came from. So yeah, and he said to me, you know, one day I want to be like your students, because I had research assistants with me, and I also want to learn so much. And I think also it was, what was interesting for me was how it was so cross-culturally applicable. I had minors from so many different countries, and none of them said this is against my culture. We're learning things like Farahnaz said, that, you know, we're learning things that were not taught, like in Syria or in Somalia, about feelings, about talking, but it's not against our culture. And I think that was the most beautiful thing from all of it, that it was something that they appreciated.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And it is super interesting. I mean, a lot of effort, it maybe doesn't look like it when you look at it, but a lot of effort went into really refining, and there was a lot of feedback involved in really refining those concepts so that they were as generic as possible, but still had some power. I guess that was the real challenge, right? Were we simplifying it so much that it ended up having no power, which we can hear today that many people are really touched by hearing those concepts explained in that particular way. So thank you so much, everybody. It's really amazing to hear you all together, and a couple of people have said, you know, just to hear the context that you're in and the struggles that so many of you are subject to on a daily basis, but you continue to persist and you continue to offer something, which is really, really amazing. So we're open to questions now, and before they come through, I will ask some of the ones that people ask me all of the time. Now I've got your expertise here. I think this is a really interesting thing. Engagement. A couple of you talked about that, and I know Michaele had some issues here, particularly with this younger group, and I'm not sure actually, Omid and Farahnaz, if you have this with teens as well, particularly with the doing what matters. What do we do here with engagement, do you think? What are your kinds of tips to people if they're wanting to engage that teen group? I'll leave it open to anyone on the panel.
I think for me, the difference was not only did I have that they were teens, but also the cultural difference. So I ended up like learning some words in Arabic so that I could engage the Syrian kids. And I think spending a lot of time with them. So in one of the shelters, they didn't actually have a separate room for me to do the questionnaires in the control group. And so I ended up going to their bedrooms, which was an experience in itself, being in the shelters and the bedrooms. But actually, you know, I watched them in their day-to-day life, the girls kind of straightening their hair and talking to each other and gossiping. And I think just having a little snippet of that, and you giving a little bit of self-disclosure, I think helped to do that therapeutic alliance with kids. I think that helped a lot.
Michaele, is there something you'd like to add? Because I mean, I know that was your whole cohort that you're working with, and Ellen, how you got engagement with that kind of age group.
We had a prompt in intervention of 1 hour with the whole high school. That was really important for them because they had a lot of prejudice, like, we are going to do therapy, I have to talk about my problems. So they were really against that. So, and also the teachers and so on. So this first intervention for them to realize what it was about, we did a mindful exercise of grounding, and also eating chocolate mindfulness that they appreciated. And we did a samba mindfulness intervention also about listening to the music. And dancing all together. and compassion, also being kind to yourself, exercise from the protocol. This was really helpful. The whole high school participated, and we are seeing this repeatedly, that this is very important. When everybody participating, you have a different type of intervention, very different from one-to-one intervention. This is very powerful. But I also completely agree with Dafne. We have to live with them. I went to the Northeast. I met Ellen just online. I was in her, knocking on her door, and I stayed with her. And then we live together with her family, and also with teachers. It was really nice to do this work by living with them for a while. It was really important, personally also.
Omid, Farahnaz, do you have any, I'm not sure if in your context you get engagement in a different way and you don't have so much trouble getting people engaged in the programs?
Actually, thank you for asking this question. Actually, if I say that most of the time we faced with lots of challenges, especially about the illiterate women, they didn't have any permission from their husband and also from their families. So that was a big challenge for me. But even in the start of the session, their husband came to the parcel, and after seeing the environment of the parcel, so they allowed their wife to came to the sessions. And also we face with so many another challenges that I don't want to share all of them, but the big challenge about the lessons, I think it was about our participants, because at the beginning session, if we did like in doing the mindfulness grounding at first, they feel that it's a little bit like it's funny to do grounding, it's really funny to do mindfulness, because they didn't know about the main point of doing mindfulness exercises. But after the second, third session, they got the main point of mindfulness, and they start doing the mindfulness mindfully. So that was the challenges that I faced with girls and also with women.
Omid.
Okay, adding to Farahnaz's challenges, my challenge was that I had the sessions both with women and also with the both with the male and female. The female could speak more about their thoughts and feelings, how they are. But the challenge was with the male. They had a perception, if we talk about our pain, if we talk about what's disturbing us, the society will judge us like some people who are very like people who cannot do anything in their life. They are like people who are like failure.
The word
yes.
that you used a time to explain to me, perception that to share those things in your week.
Yes, you're weak. So that was like a challenge for me. So I was trying to create a safe space for them to start speaking about their thoughts and feelings and not to be judged. So we had a protocol. And when they were joining the class, they were signing those protocols and those contracts. And those contracts, one of the things was that no one in this support group, all the conversation is like, it's not going to be out of this group. So you can talk about what's fearful and what are your worries without any judgments. So that was something, I don't know to name it, like a cultural aspect, as it was mentioned that people here have not learned to speak about their thoughts and feelings and how they're doing. So if you ask someone, how are you? If they are not even feeling good, they will say, I'm good. So that's like a culture. That was the difficulty, yeah.
And what about with the scouting group? The scouting group would be younger?
Yeah.
And how was engagement there?
Yes, it was a great engagement with them. We had something which is called leadership sessions, and on those leadership sessions we have the psychosocial session for them, and the psychosocial session was focused on doing what matters in times of stress. One of the stories that I want to share that with you is I had a boy in the scout program and in the psychosocial program. He came to me and said one day, "Teacher, why do you want to make us feel unhappy?" I said, "Why?" He said, "You just want us to focus on what's painful, and we are just escaping from those things, but you're somehow trying to remember all those bad things which has happened to us, and I just want to escape from that. So your session is like, it seems very painful to me." When I said, the thing is that you have to somehow be in the present moment, and you should not escape from what's bothering you, because it will always bother you. But when you speak about it, when you talk about it, and when you engage with the present moment, that's how you can accept those bad pains that you have. And also you can, in a state now, focus on what's valuable for you in your life and have some actions toward those values. So that was an experience with the scout, with the youngsters.
Thank you. I mean, I think it is really interesting around the world, the different kinds of challenges that there are with engagement, particularly with those younger groups. The other question I get asked a lot is funding. So we have a wide range of funding here. I know that PASA gets funding from different philanthropy groups. Michaele, you're saying you had no funding for what you were doing in Brazil. You just had the assistance of universities.
Yeah, we have no funding. INH University, here we have to have a university to have like certificated. So the course that we provide for the teachers, one incentive was this, to have a certification of a course. So this the university provides us, and also the possibility to do research. And this was the support that we had. After that, Ellen did the translation, like a Wonder Woman person. And that was all. And the rest is all people that share the same dream, and they are willing to do this. Now we are trying to find ways to have more financial support to go bigger. Now we have 4 points in Brazil that we are acting, but if we can have financial support, we can do better. But we also have a lot of people getting interesting and to do it voluntarily also. So we are doing what we can, but it's basically just translating the material and having the meetings and getting involved. So there is no other resource. The school also print the material sometimes no. Sometimes we deliver it online through PDF. So the basic is just doing, the rest will go on.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to hear. I mean, I know a lot of people will be listening to this on recording. I think it's really important for people to hear this is a free intervention. It actually is super low cost. If you can get a venue and you can get a community member to deliver, you can actually start to have this be operational pretty much straight away. Because I know, Dafne, as well, you had very limited funding, even though yours was such an extensive project, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I had some funding from the Cyprus Youth Board, but I also did get some funding from ACBS. And they do actually have really good funding for these kinds of projects and for diversity kind of projects and things like that. So I think I would recommend applying for that, I think. I did have other expenses, like, because I had to do all the therapy by myself, like petrol to go to a different city. I couldn't pay my students for helping me with the data collection, and I had to pay the interpreters. So there was that cost, but and printing out the booklets. But apart from that, yeah, buying materials for the groups, but it wasn't that expensive, as much as I thought it was going to be, at least.
Yes, yeah, that's what I kind of want people to hear, and to kind of listen to these stories and say, wow, in all of these real challenging situations, it was really a willingness, to use some ACT terms here, a real willingness, a real alignment to a value system to say, hey, where is this needed in my community, and how can I make a difference without kind of having those barriers of, well, we don't have enough psychologists to do this, or we don't have enough social workers, or we don't have any of these things, that we can just train community members, and community members can offer it through to community. We've had some really interesting, unexpected places in Australia. I don't remember who I was telling that just by coincidence, I met somebody who was running a group for Indian migrants, grandmothers who come over. Now, for most of these women, they have no English. They come over and they're, well over 60. They're isolated often in suburbs that are sort of well outside of the city. And one of the group was really willing to offer this. And so they did it through knitting. They started a knitting group, and then they started offering this as a session. So people would start knitting, and then they'd start to offer this as a session. And then the women got interested enough that they put their knitting down and really engaged. And, I think this is it was a really beautiful way of pulling them together as well, because whenever we do a group intervention, actually some of the effect is the group, right? This is actually how, and even in the schools, Michaele, that, that when you have the teachers and all the students and the other people who are involved, everyone starts using similar terminology. Everyone starts supporting each other in these kinds of experiential ways. And I think there's quite a lot of power in that as well. The other question that I know that someone brought up before, in Afghanistan, when people don't have phones, or they don't have credit cards, or we're wanting to do things online, does anyone have suggestions about, if we're going to do these programs online or offer them, say, a web-based program where there's low resources, does anyone have any suggestions about how to get people access to those sorts of technology resources?
But the question is, would they even have the hardware to access it? It's not about internet, but do they have access to the hardware?
Yeah, because in lots of cases, that's what we actually find. I mean, when the Syrian refugees first were coming out over the border, UNHCR dropped tents down, but there was quite a lot of funding for them to drop phones down as well. So sometimes there are actually places to get technology, or hardware in particular, that, there are a lot of philanthropy groups that will offer money for those kinds of things rather than interventions. So it's often worth considering approaching some of those philanthropy groups for that kind of money. They're much more interested in, how do I say this, something very tangible. I ordered 250 phones and it went to this place, rather than, I gave some money to some people who said they were going to do some training. Does that make sense to people? Yeah. The other question that a lot of people have asked me is it realistic to try to offer this to people when they're already very uptight or anxious or in a very bad place? There seems to be some fear by people that this could be more activating. I mean, it's a low intensity intervention and it's had a lot of research, but I know people are sometimes worried about that. What would any of you say about that?
we face this situation, exactly the situation. About 1/3 of our population had a very severe suicidal ideation. So it was a really, really challenging, really impact when we faced that. Just for you to have an idea about stress, it was 1 in 300 that was not in a very bad stress situation. So it was like almost none. So we had this. We didn't afford, we thought improvement to our measures, but not that much significant. But what we thought it was really significant when we track the severity questions inside the questionnaires that we track to map severe cases. These improve a lot. So we had a 22 single case study. In 22, 8 of them have severe suicidal ideation. So it's a lot. And it passed through 4 after the intervention and 6-month follow-up to 0. So this is very important. Yes. And we can see this by because they had suicidal attempts, suicidal cases. So this was really important for us to target. And we also provide, we active the network from the place support network to direct these people also to other treatments. Some went, some not, but they improve a lot. So it was a combinatory way of acting, but we saw this improve a lot with the protocol, and sometimes with other treatments, sometimes not.
Yeah, and with the group effects and all of those things, I mean, you know, we want to acknowledge all of that as well. That's amazing, Michaele. Farahnaz, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Claudette, for this question. Actually, whenever we start our training, we are using like PHQ-9 and also JD7 questionnaire. At the first of the questionnaire, we just noticed that how much stress they have in their routine life, and I faced with the participants that they had, like Michaele, if I pronounce her name correctly. We faced with the participants that they had suicidal thoughts, and that the journey of this training was not just only training; it was a treatment for them. It was a treatment for them, and even right now I have contact with them, and they are happy because, you know, Claudette, they found meaning. They found meaning to their life. They just noticed to their values, and right now they have commitment to their life and also to their family life. So yes, we face with those kind of people. And also at the I want to say something in your first question, that yes, we do need like funding. We do need those organizations or maybe those persons that they can help us on having like some cell phones, because we have volunteer students that they need financial support from us. And also we have so many students in provinces, in Afghanistan provinces, that they cannot afford like a cell phone for themselves to have this kind of training. So yeah, it will be so great if we found those people that can help our organization in this case. Thank you.
Yeah, and now I noticed that we're at time. I could ask 100 questions more of all of you. Thank you so much for participating. I'm sure everyone who's listening to the recording has learned so much. And I just want to encourage everyone who's listening to remember that the reason we don't hear research from all of these people is because we actually don't have, most of our journals don't have a facility to accept research that hasn't had ethics approval from a university. And this is a really big impediment for many people getting research out. So I encourage anyone who's out there and listening, and I know that Wendy and Eugene are really keen on this as part of the Developing Nations Committee to get a research subgroup going. We need to support people who are doing all this important work around the world so we get it published, stop having all of our research on the weird population. All right, that's my little thing at the end. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, that was really good.
Yeah, everyone, it's really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we to move on to the next session now. Thanks everybody from that session. That was really interesting and so much to learn. I could ask so many questions myself. I'll probably ask later. So we're going to move on to the next session. I'm just going to stop the record. Hang on. Have you been?